Hey, you're back. Welcome to Season 3 of The People We Meet. I'm Ty Bruner. I'll be your host. I'm glad you're here, and let's get on with it. Well, this show has a dedication. Today's show goes out to Jeff and Darlene in memory of Hurley. I'm sorry, guys. He was a good little buddy, and this one's for you. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The People We Meet. My guest today is Lisa Lucas. And Lisa has spent more than 25 years working professionally with animals as a trainer, behavioral specialist, and teacher of humans. Her background includes shelter work, rehabilitation, behavior modification, training programs, and decades of hands-on experience helping people better understand the animals they share their lives with. Now, I know the phrase animal communicator may instantly trigger skepticism in some people. Fair enough. But what interested me about Lisa wasn't some over-the-top claim of magical powers. It was the deeper question underneath all of it. It's not so much what we think we know about animals, but how much do animals actually understand about us? Because anyone who has ever truly loved a dog, a horse, a cat, or any animal has probably experienced moments that are difficult to explain away completely. Moments of intuition, connection, comfort, loyalty, or emotional awareness that feel profoundly real. And whether you view this through the lens of spirituality, psychology, intuition, behavior, or simply the bond between humans and animals, I think this conversation is going to resonate with a lot of people. So with that said, this is my conversation with Lisa Lucas. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. Lisa, where were you born?
I was born in Concord, California. And I grew up in Clayton, California. And I now live in Clayton, Washington.
Coincidence?
I don't know. I have no idea.
What was your family like?
I grew up in a small family, one brother. Dad was a firefighter. We did live in a rural area, and it's not rural anymore. It's the suburbs of San Francisco, but it was all ranching and orchards when I grew up. And I had animals. I was the one in the family that had animals. I had horses, and I was in 4-H, and sheep and pigs and dogs and cats and all of that. And they were my sanctuary. I would spend hours in the mountains on my horse, just alone. And that other people my age, kids my age, were babysitting, were, cruising the strip on Saturday nights, and I was out in the mountains with my animals. Yeah.
And that's kind of that's where you felt at home.
Yes, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize it until much, much later in life as I look back, but I was more comfortable with animals than with people. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I don't think I'm that unusual.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I like dogs better than I like most people. And I saw one of my favorite t-shirts says, I like beer, dogs, and maybe 3 people.
Yeah, animals are divine. They are pure spirit. They are pure in their intention. They live in the moment. They're very present. They live in the moment and don't hold grudges. And human beings, our brains are always spinning around. We're going forward. We're going backwards. We're worrying about what we did. We're worrying about what we're going to do. And animals bring us back to our center, whether we are aware of it or not. And that is a place of peace and safety and grounding and comfort.
And I have to think that that's only if we allow it to happen, or if we can be aware enough of it. Because
the animals are just naturally that way. And attempting energy resonates. So their energy is present, and it has a frequency, and it's vibrating, and our frequency can start to vibrate with that. And and become more resonant with it. And the more our brains are busy and locked up and worried and all of that, then the less we are aware of it, if that makes sense.
It does, because I think that we can be so tuned in to all our own bullshit and our social media and whatever's on the screen in front of our face and all of our problems and who's pissing us off in traffic, that there's a lot of things that we don't listen to or pay attention to. And I have to think that that animals, our pets, are one of those.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And especially in this day and age, we could go on about that, but.
Well, hopefully we will.
Okay.
Well, I think a lot of us who really love animals have had moments where we swear they understand us better than people did. So before we even get into the deeper stuff, where do you think that connection comes from?
Where do I think that connection comes from?
Like, how do you think they know? I mean, I'm pretty sure they do.
They 100% do. And let me just give you, I don't know, a little context. Before, I'm 25 years as a professional dog trainer, before really moving into this path. And what I noticed standing in front of that classroom, year after year after year, thousands of dogs, so many classes, is I can see it unfolding before me. The dogs figure out stuff way faster than the humans. What the dogs know what the humans want, they know what the humans need, and they are attempting to help the humans to figure it out. I can take a dog in a classroom and within like 3 seconds, they are doing everything I want it to do. And I hand it back to the human after instructing them week after week after week. This is what you do. This is how you communicate. This is what you do. And the animals just are reflecting back to the people the confusion and the lack of confidence and their misunderstanding and all of that. So animals figure this idea that humans are the superior species, that we're smarter and we get it figured out faster is fact. I'm telling you that is 100% untrue. Humans are slow at a lot of stuff. So the animals know us a lot of times almost better than we know ourselves because they are telepathic. We are telepathic. Animals are telepathic. It's in humans to be telepathic, but it gets buried under all of this crazy, busy brain stuff that we do. So telepathic means to communicate on an energetic level and to know things, to have a deeply honed sense of intuition. And the animals don't have all of that other gunk in their heads blocking that. And the animals also read the pictures in our head. So whatever's going on in our head, they're seeing it in the moment. And sometimes we don't even know what's going on in our head, right? So that it comes from ultimately the point of origin. We are all a spark of divine spirit. We all go back to the same spirit. And the animals are at that level, reading us and understanding us all of the time. So does that answer your question?
I think so. Well, I got a ton of questions for you.
Okay.
So first of all, I'll ask maybe a simpler one. You're telling me that they have all this ability to teach us and to communicate with us, other than making a conscious effort to disengage from all the noise that we have around us. How do we listen? What is the best way to just listen to what they have to say?
The best way is to listen with your heart and to become good at setting aside your own thoughts. Now, what do I mean by that? So I actually have a whole class I teach around this. So one of the biggest blocks to hearing your animals accurately is we have preconceived ideas and notions about what they're thinking, about what's possible. And that blocks the inflow of information coming from the animal. And those preconceived ideas are from culture, from generations of this is the way animals are, this is the way animals think. And we don't even realize what's in our head that is limiting the information that they will give to us.
And do you mean like those are the limitations that we've imposed on them? Like, oh, they're just a dog. What do they know? Or
Correct. It blocks communication. It blocks the inflow. And it's the same with people, honestly. If you're listening to someone, but you're not, you've got to be fully present to really hear what they're saying, what a person is saying, what an animal is saying. The other thing is that you've got to be able to quiet your mind. And that's the biggest thing that people say, I can't get my head quiet. How do I get my head still like you do? I don't have time to meditate. I don't want to do that. Well, there are things you can do to get yourself quiet. One, for example, and I do this every single day to keep myself sort of tuned up and in practice, is deep breathe, literally on a count your breath, count in 2, 3, 4, 5, out 2, 3, 4, 5, and breathe until your body is relaxed, but you're focusing on the breath and the counting, the other thoughts in your head start to fall away. And then you start to get impressions that come in the form of a picture in your head. It comes in the form of a knowing that comes to you. A lot of times it's a feeling. You're feeling, sensing something with your whole body and all of the energy in your body, which really comes down to deep intuition. And then you pay attention to it and you just sit with it and you look for proof. You look for something that indicates that, yeah, you heard that correctly.
So, and I can certainly believe that it includes animals, but it's not, I wouldn't think that it's exclusive to animals, because if you can do those things, clear your mind and quiet yourself and all that, just being outside and listening to what the sounds that you're hearing and
the wind
and all of that. That's so, and you spent a lot of time not just with your animals, but outdoors with your animals. Was that true for you?
Yes, it is true for me.
So I want to share a moment with you. Tell me what you think. So I've had several dogs, and my first dog, which I actually read about in the pre-show to the show, was my dog Tara. She's a beautiful black lab. It was like the dog that I dreamed of having my entire life, and she did not disappoint. Just an amazing dog. And in her last couple of years, probably her last year, she got sick. She got diabetes and cancer pretty much at the same time, and she lived to be 12. And I was just utterly devastated when she passed away. And then when I met my wife, she had this dog, and this dog's name was Sequoia. And it was a little brown mix of Doberman and something else. And I didn't like her. And I was like, that dog never did anything to me, but I didn't like her. And I couldn't really figure out why. And then we were out playing ball. Now, Sequoia was older than 12. I think she was like 14 at this point, still liked to play ball. So I had my other dog, and I was playing ball, and then I'd throw Sequoia's ball, and it would go down the hill, and I'm like, that'll keep it busy for a while. And she would bring it back every freaking time. And then I think it started with like this little kernel of respect. And then it hit me and it still hits me, like it emotionally hits me, that it occurred to me that I resented that dog because it was still healthy and happy at the age of 14 and chasing balls. And my beautiful black lab had gotten diabetes and cancer at the same time and passed away. And I remember we had moved to this house, and Sequoia was laying on the floor just kind of chilling, and I walked up to her and I was like, I'm really sorry about that. And like, I'm not making this up, but I mean, I felt it.
That's
like,
it.
She let me know that it was okay. And I sat there and I cried.
Yep.
And like, I've had several dogs, but I haven't had too many moments like I did with that dog. And I still grieve for that dog. I love that dog. And I only knew her for like 2 years. And it's been probably a year and some change wasted resenting her.
Well, animals are healers, and that's one of the gifts that they bring. And she was there, very persistent, to crack open your whatever shell or whatever was building up around the loss of your other dog, the loss of your black lab. So there was when we have resentment, when we have fear, when we have all of that, it comes up as a hard shell, a hard casing around us. And when you told me you threw the ball and it'd go over and she'd bring it back every time, I immediately saw her. And what she was doing was she was like, I'm going to crack that shell.
Yeah.
She did that completely on purpose. And then you had a heart opening, and your whatever shell, that was cracked away, and it went away. And that's healing. That's healthy. That brings you closer to your divinity. It brings you closer to your own soul. And that is one of the superpowers that these animals have. She knew what she was doing.
I don't doubt.
Very intentional.
Okay. So that leads me to another question. So I had this discussion with a buddy of mine, one of my best friends, very devout Christian, just awesome guy. And it was, we got to talking about animals. And I said, well, what does a good book say about animals and souls? And he goes, well, I don't really know. I don't know that it says anything about it. And I asked him, I said, well, do you think they have them? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, Paul, thinking back to Tara, like with all of the love and loyalty and friendship and kindness and patience and forgiveness that dog showed me through all the stupid stuff that I did throughout the years and all the crappy houses that I took her through before I actually had a house. Those are not the attributes of a soulless creature.
Very good. I'm impressed that you would come to that conclusion. Yeah, they have a soul. And one of the exercises I have people do in my classes to start to break down the barrier, break down those ideas that we have that we don't even realize we have, is to make a list on paper of the higher or more spiritual qualities that your animals possess. And at first, I've noticed this with all my students, a list, and I say, write it down and look at it over the week and add to it. And it starts off with the basic stuff about a dog. They're loyal, they're, strong, they're protective, and all of that. And over time, if you start thinking about it, that list grows into, those things that you just said. She was patient, she was kind, she was, all of those things that are attributed to a soul, a soul existence. And again, I do have people in my current class that do read the Bible, and they're comfortable with telepathic communication, animals having souls, as not being in conflict with their Christian beliefs. I've also had people say, no, I read the Bible. I can't. That's whatever. I don't know. It's not good. So,
what do you mean by that?
Tell some people, and let me clarify. Let me talk about psychic ability and telepathic ability.
Okay.
And I don't consider this a psychic phenomenon. I don't consider myself to be a psychic. And I think for a lot of people, when you say psychic, it can morph into mediumship and, talking to, spirits that maybe aren't good spirits and all of that. This is telepathic. And telepathic is you are just having a conversation with another being on an energetic level. So I think what happens is for some people, the idea of moving into the psychic realm, it's like a Ouija board. It's like, oh, you can get yourself into darkness, bad energy.
Mm.
And so it's important that here in this conversation to distinguish between the two. Animals communicate telepathically with each other all the time. If you watch birds flying in formation, you have all these birds, whatever, 50 birds, 40 birds, 100 birds, and they exact formation. Well, it's all energy. They're communicating energetically. That's telepathic communication. You want to say something I can see.
Well, actually, things keep popping into my head. But
Yeah.
You know that bird formation thing?
Yeah.
You ever looked at a formation of birds and you notice that, like, in their little V, one side's always, like, bigger than the other?
Yeah.
You know why that is?
No.
There's more birds on that side.
Oh, sorry. You are funny.
No, I heard that from somebody else, and I thought it was funny, even though it's stupid.
But they still move in formation. They still, when one moves, the
Yes.
other moves.
So, no, because what sort of triggered this idea of telepathy was some of the people that you said were sort of objected,
Skeptical,
yes,
uncomfortable.
that were Christian,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't those same people believe that God spoke to them or that God spoke to somebody else? I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this, but I mean, I guess to me, it seems like if we can accept that God spoke to us or anybody else, that it could happen with an animal too.
Yes, that's my belief. I don't want to go into the weeds on people's spiritual beliefs. So everyone believes differently, and I just wanted to mention that this is not a telepathic communication is not something that conflicts with any spiritual belief.
I wouldn't think so.
Unless you believe that animals don't have souls, and that's just not true.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I guess that's I guess that's a conversation of itself, because, like, I would really like to understand why somebody would not believe that or not feel that it's a good thing,
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's a topic for another podcast.
so you have a pretty serious real world background in training and behavior work.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you begin to feel that there was something happening beyond the traditional training methods?
From the beginning, I have never fit into a mold. I'm considered, in terms of dog training, I'm considered a positive dog trainer. Because I don't use force and intimidation and yelling and screaming and shock collars and all of that. But I never really totally fit into that world either. But I just kept it all under wraps, just trying to find my way. How could I be credible and get clients and get work done and fit in enough? But, I always I see the whole world in energy, and I've done a lot of private training where I go into people's homes, a lot of private training. I walk into a home and I'm feeling energy, and I am seeing the animals reflecting back to the people reflecting back to the animals, and I'm seeing that over and over again. I remember one time I was in somebody's home many, many years ago, and I was there because their border collie was extremely obsessive compulsive. If they came home from work, laid a jacket over the back of a chair, the dog would bark at it nonstop. They'd move the jacket, the dog would continue to bark at the back of the chair. And the only way they could break that cycle was to take the dog out for a long walk. And somewhere in there, in my consultation, I was gathering details, and I just looked at both of them, and I just asked a question that's probably borderline illegal. And I said, okay, which one of you is OCD? And one of them raised their hand and the other one pointed at the other one. And I said, are you medicated for it? She said, yes, heavily. So I see that all the time. I'm at somebody's house and he's describing how his dog has this weird neurological issues in his lower back over his pelvic area. And then he'll go, yeah, and I have that too. Over and over and over again. And I just know that the interplay, between humans and animals is always, so I can't go into a home, there's a behavior problem and just deal with the animal. It's not, it's the interplay between the animal and the people and what's going on. So I've always been aware of that. And I know when I write about the time I said, I'm going to go this route. I was at somebody's house and they had been with another trainer and the dog spent a lot of money with another trainer. And I walked in the house and they said, this dog won't even sit. We don't know why. She won't sit. She won't do anything. And I walked in and I took one look at her and she looked at me with this big sad energy. And what I heard from her was, I can't hold up to the harsh training methods. I just can't. And so I said, talk to me about the training. And it was harsh training methods. And I said, you've completely shut this dog down. And I read it the instant I walked in. And I said, look, this is her personality. This is how we need to work with her. And we turned it around. But it wasn't a training method. It was me telepathically picking up from the animal, this is what I need. And the animal looking at me and saying, this is what I need. You've got to help me. You've got to get me out of this. And then I just walk the people through it. Now, since I made a decision to go more in this direction, I've gone back and worked with behavioral clients and we've turned things around. I mean, I have a client whose dog was highly reactive when they were out on a trail walking or anywhere walking, they'd see another dog, sometimes people too. And what I knew about this dog is that when he was very young, like 4 months old, he was attacked, ambushed by a pit bull, I'm sorry to say, and almost killed. And it was traumatic for him and it was traumatic for the owner. But with massive amounts of training, she's a perfectly trained dog and still couldn't get to the bottom of why sometimes he reacted, sometimes he didn't. When I connected with him telepathically.
And what did he react to?
Dogs and people. So they're out on a hiking trail, on a walking trail. He sees the dog, he just went ballistic and she couldn't get him back under control. But one of the most highly trained dogs you'd ever want to meet. But still, when he lost it, he lost it. So I brought him back to that moment that I said, do you remember that? And I was flooded with a feeling of absolute terror. And I said, okay, let's move it out. Let's move that energy out. It all happened within like 15 seconds. And I talked to this dog about what PTSD was. And I said, let me explain to you what PTSD is.
This is you talking to the dog.
Talking to the dog. Because I had asked the dog earlier, so why do you react? What's going on? And he couldn't tell me. So I don't know. I don't know why I react.
So when you're doing this is a great story. I don't want to lose it, but like, how is this actually taking place? Like, are you in a room?
No, I do it. I was just on a Zoom meeting.
On Zoom?
Uh-huh.
You were talking to the dog on Zoom?
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to the owner, but I was connecting with the dog telepathically. And this is a dog I started at the beginning of this very long story that I had worked with previously as a client, a training client. So I knew the dog. But when we decided to connect with the dog telepathically and really understand what is happening from the dog's perspective. Now, that was the point of this session that I was having. And I said, take me on a walk. I asked him to take me on a walk. And okay, now there's a dog and you react. And he showed me that he's reacting. And I said, why?
So this is for a real walk?
Yeah. Yes. I asked him telepathically. I said, imagine that you're going on a walk. I want to know why you feel that way when you see a dog. And so I'm seeing images. I'm feeling what he's feeling when he's on a walk. Mm-hmm. And then I feel him react and I asked him, why? Show me why. And he said, he couldn't. Said, I don't know. I don't know why. Like he can't say I'm afraid or I'm a tough dog or I'm trying to be protective. I don't know why. So then I took him back. I said, do you remember when you were a puppy and this happened? And he did. And I felt it. I felt the terror. I felt all of it. And then right there in the moment, I said, in my mind, I said, we're not staying in this terror. I just set it aside. In my mind, my body, my energy, I set it aside. And then I explained to him what PTSD is. I said, PTSD is, and I explained by using pictures in my head. Animals read the pictures in your head. So I'm very focused on what I'm saying. And it's like there's a film running in my mind about PTSD. You store the event in your body and your muscles and your neurological system, and then something triggers it and your physical body reacts. But it doesn't make sense I just explained it to him like I'd explain it to a person. That was 2 years ago, and he has not had one more reactive incident on the trail.
That's a moment.
So I have moved beyond being worried about what people think, because I'm having those kinds of results with it, where we did a massive amount of very traditional training, behavior modification, desensitization, but it wasn't until we came in and connected with him telepathically and really got to the root of it, that's when the real progress happened.
That's fascinating.
I know, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I know you don't know what to say. Look at you.
Well, I'm sitting there while I'm thinking about it, because how true is so much of this for people? Like those same, the body knows the score, right? The trauma that you carry with you throughout your life.
Absolutely.
You might not even realize why it's there, but it's there. I know. It makes sense to me that animals would react the same way.
They do. And then being able to talk, and if you can bring the animals release it a lot. Humans have to go through 58 years of therapy, but animals usually, if you can get right to the nugget, they can release it on their own. It's really amazing how that works. But, they also, that's how this animal improved. But a really fantastic example about how animals can help people heal from their own trauma is I worked with a dog and the gentleman is a Vietnam vet. Mm-hmm. And when he had adopted this dog, he told me, he said, I just saw her eyes were black. He said, they just were so much terror in her eyes. And he said, it reminded me of a buddy of mine that came home from Vietnam. And he was never the same. And I said, and he was choking up. He was struggling with it in that moment. And I said, listen, she's here to help you see it and help you release it. I said, you don't have to hold on to that. Let it go. Just let it go. And that's what this dog is reminding you of, that, bringing you back to that point. And now you have an option of letting it go or not. And for some reason, because it came from the dog, he was able to let it go. Yeah.
Well, emotional support animals for a reason, or therapy dogs.
Right.
I mean, whether you do EMDR or psychedelics or connect with an animal, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, you know what? And as I'm reading through, I'm like, okay, which one of these questions is going to work? And I'm like, none of them. Like, I'm starting to realize that the questions that I have are like kind of just sort of going away from.
Well, ask one of them.
Well, hang on. I want to ask this one.
Okay.
So we've talked pretty much exclusively about dogs.
Yes.
And I feel very comfortable talking about dogs because I've had a lot of experience with dogs. I've also had cats.
Mm-hmm.
How are cats different? Because cats are definitely different.
That is one of those belief systems that gets lodged in our brain, right? I work with a lot of cats, and cats are very wise. They're not as, let me see. They're not, dogs, there isn't a dog, almost every dog, like 99.99% of all dogs want to please their people. They're there to help. They're there to support. The cats have a little bit more of an independent. I'm not going to do the heavy lifting for you, human. I will be here. I will show you the way, but you've got to, you've got to lift yourself up type of attitude. But I worked with a lot of litter box cats urinating out of litter box issues. And I would say, let me see, I did a calculation one time. 4 out of 5 of the cats that I work with, we resolved the litter box issues.
You mean they were peeing somewhere other than litter box?
Other than the litter box. Yeah. I had
So
one.
what was the cost? Like, what was the other?
It's always different. So in one, there was 2 indoor cats and an outside feral cat, and there were turf wars going on. And the inside cats were peeing on the people's beds. It was bad. And spraying doors, and it was really intense. And when I connected, what I learned really quickly is that this was an issue for the human about setting boundaries. And I just went into it with that. I said, look, this is just what I'm getting on this. These cats are here to help you set boundaries, take care of your cats, take care of your house. And it was very complicated. I worked with them for about 3 weeks. And she said, well, funny enough, I'm in counseling for that very thing. I said, okay, well, these cats are to help you to bring it over the line. She said, I did, and by the time it was over with, the feral cat had found a new home, and with her help, and she said, I don't know. I'm afraid this cat's just going to get put down, the feral cat, And I said, no, there's an option for him. He's telling me, the feral cat told me that when you make a decision to take care of your own house and your own animals, and you're firm about that, setting a boundary for yourself, he said, there will be another home for me. And that's exactly how it turned out. So that was that issue. I had another issue where there was a lot of dogs and a lot of cats in the home. And there was one cat that just says, I feel too crowded. There was a litter box that was off in a laundry room somewhere. And she said, the dogs can't get in there. But the cat showed me that there was a lot of pressure just getting into the laundry room, and she needed more space. She said, there's too much pressure. So they reluctantly put a litter box somewhere else where there was a lot of space, and it all went away. So that, there's very different reasons why. I worked with a kitten one time. Oh my God, he was fantastic. He just said, he showed me that he's like a king of the jungle. And he says, my job is to mark territory, let everybody know that I'm in charge. I said, okay, Mr. King of the Jungle, what could we do here? And what I ended up doing was asking another cat in the family. I said, you need to help us domesticate this little guy because he's way too cocky. And it was that kind of a conversation. And we again put a litter box somewhere else where it was his own private litter box. And that was a long time ago, and there has been from the minute we had that session, there was no more peeing outside the litter box. And I've worked with an alpaca, I've worked with a horse, and
That's what I was going to ask you about next.
Okay.
Because I've never owned horses. I've done some riding.
Yeah.
And I've always been kind of drawn to horses, but I never felt like I had the familiarity with horses.
Uh-huh.
So every time I rode a horse, I always felt very connected to it. When I talked to it and, how do horses communicate with us? Because I know there's a lot of people that have some and you're clearly one of them. That was from your childhood too.
Yeah.
I want to understand a little bit more about people who have these deep connections with horses and how does that work? How does that compare to dogs? And every being, whether it's a spider, a snake, a horse, or whatever, has a soul. And at the soul level, we're not that different. It's just that we have to adapt to the physical body that we're in for survival, for whatever our purpose here is on the planet. So horses,
I had a session recently with a horse, and it was a pretty personal, pretty traumatic situation. But let me just say, in the end, after the session was over, I sat with the horses again. And this is energetically, telepathically. They weren't anywhere near me. They were 100 miles away. But I brought myself into their energetic space, and there was 2 horses, and I put my hands on their chest, which is their heart area. And they both almost had this energy kind of drop, their head kind of drop sort of way about them. And they said, "We are so tired of people not understanding us." Um, and and this was a situation where one of the horses was at the end of its life, and there was an argument between the human and the vet. Well, we need to put it down, and I'm not going to put it down, and all this stuff. Well, the horse heard every single word and understood every single word. And that conversation and treating the horse like it was nothing, like it couldn't understand, like it was just a piece of property, was deeply traumatizing for that animal. And they said, we're just tired of it. But a lot of times the horses, the lessons and the gifts that they bring to people are about personal power and managing your own energy. Because when you ride, they are ultra sensitive to your energy, what you're doing when you're on their back and when you're with them. And, they can hurt you if you get it wrong. So you have to be really tuned into your presence. And the more present you are and the more quiet your mind is and all of that, the more in sync and in tune you will be when you're working with a horse. You should go take some riding lessons. You'll love it.
Yeah, well, I guess I learned how to ride, but I won't say, I never actually took riding lessons, and I always felt very comfortable.
Oh,
I've never been afraid on the back of a horse, probably because they were all pretty nice horses. But anyway, like I said, I always, not being very familiar with horses and their energy and all that.
yeah.
I always felt very comfortable and very connected to them when I was writing.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes humans make when trying to communicate with animals?
Being worried that I am like thinking I know. And yesterday, someone asked me about a cat situation. Again, it involved a feral cat, and her outside cat was not going to allow the other feral cat to be anywhere near. And there were some fights that were starting to happen that were resulting in pretty significant wounds. And my thought was, these are feral cats, like they're territorial. That's the way that they are. And if I had allowed myself to stay with that, I wouldn't have got information that could truly help. And so yesterday I didn't make that mistake, but I have made that mistake in the past. So what I was able to do is say, okay, this is normally what happens with feral cats, but let me just set that completely outside of my bubble and be open to whatever arises. And what we finally got to is that I asked the question, which is another mistake. You have to ask questions and know how to ask questions. So the question I ended up asking, but it took me a while to figure out what question to ask, was, is there a way for you 2 cats to live harmoniously on the same property? And we did come up with an answer for that, actually. But had I just said, had I not gone deeper and asked more of a deeper question, I would have missed. And I think that with animal communicators in general, that is a very common, very common occurrence where animal communicators will give advice instead of listening to what the animal has to say. I'm trying to think of another example.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the person that's trying to communicate with the animal is basically trying to anticipate what the animal is going to say instead of actually listening.
That's a mistake. Yes, correct.
Okay, yes, that does seem like it would be a mistake.
That would be a mistake, but that's what the human mind does.
Mhm.
We lock up. So um, I have found when I open up, and I just went through this really intense course. It was 6 months, 4 days a week. I was in this certification course. So I had lots of practice. And in the beginning of that 6 months, even I was still sort of trying to anticipate. And by the end of the course, I got to a place where I just could put all of that aside and allow the animals to tell me what was really going on.
Okay. So let me try this. So you've met Fluff here.
Yes.
How can I best listen to her? Like, I think she's a happy dog. I think she likes her food. I think she likes us. And I think that we treat her pretty well. But how can I best connect with her to find out if she's got something else that I don't know about?
Okay. So it's hard to miss all of that. I mean, all of what you said is accurate. I mean, you can look at her body language and her energy is very peaceful. You say that she likes to come into your podcast room and be with people. And that is because she is very much a part of it. She's imparting very calming, grounding energy. I feel it. She was in my lap for the longest time, and I felt soothed. Like you feel soothed, like your
Mhm.
stomach feels soothed. Well, that's her. I'm tapped into her energy. She's flowing that energy out is a gift that she's giving. She adores her role here with that and with the work that you do. So, but what you can do is in a morning, sometime before your mind has had a chance to fill up. I like to sit outside and do this. Just like, do some deep breath. They call it breath work or breathing. Do you ever do breath work?
I do.
Okay. So you focus on your breath and you breathe in and out until your body relaxes. And then you do everything in your power to just push. If a thought comes in, you just float it on out. And then what you do is you can, there's many different ways to do this, but I'll just give you a visual. You can picture, and you always imagine your feet connected to the earth. They don't have to be on the earth, but imagine them connected to the earth. Mother Earth supports this process. It's very grounding. It'll help stabilize you. And then you bring energy through your body. You might see it as a light that comes from your heart, goes to her heart, wraps around in a figure 8. So it comes out of your heart, goes to hers, wraps around, and comes back. So you guys are linked. And just sit with it. That's it. Don't go up into thinky. Don't go up in your head. If your eyebrows start furrowing together because you're trying really hard to get something, you'll never get anything.
Yeah.
So you just start with that space, open space, and loving space. And just see what you feel. And you will feel your heart expand with this dog. I already know this, so you probably should pick another animal. Pick a wild bird out there or something. And believe, and then you trust it. You go, okay. I'm feeling this. I'm trusting it. That's her heart energy. And then just ask her a question. Say, what would it be? Is there anything, how do you feel about your life here? And let me know if there's anything I can do to make it better for you. And if you don't get anything in that moment, you will get something later. You always get answers.
Okay.
Might not come in that moment.
Okay. I'll try that. There's another reason I like her down here during my podcasts.
And that is?
I don't want her going apeshit on the UPS guy while we're trying to talk.
But she's just doing her job, Dad.
So here's another part of her job that I do worry about a little bit. If she didn't have a leash or her little harness that she's on in the front yard, she would run right into a car and get squashed. Mm-hmm. She will charge She almost got run over by a delivery truck because she just goes right out in front of it. And when we're out walking, any cars that are passing by, she's flipping out, like yanking on yanking and barking and just going crazy.
Mhm.
Is that just inherent to their nature, or is there some other reason for that?
So there's yes and probably. So yes, dogs, things that move fast, those trucks come in, the ground is bouncing around. They like, I don't understand what this is. And so from a physiological standpoint, her adrenaline comes up into fight or flight. I got to handle it. I don't know what this is. It's scary to me. And then once they're in full fight or flight, their brain shuts off. So then it's hard to direct them. How you would work with that is you would, before you just start working with her before you go on a walk, and every now and then get your mind quiet and picture the cars coming by and picture her not reacting. So, but then you also have to have a plan because she's not gonna get it overnight. So you have to have some kind of a plan, like put a hot dog in front of her nose and, get her going in another direction, whatever the other plan is for her.
You're getting a carrot, fluff, fluff.
But but along with that, they read the pictures in your head. And so if you're like, oh God, here comes the car, and you have this picture in your head of her losing her mind, and what am I going to do? She's reading that picture, and that is going to be the outcome. So you have to change a picture in your head. And also at the same time, I would tell her in a telepathic communicator, I would go over, okay, this happens, the cars come by and tell me what's going on there. And she might say, God, the ground rumbles. I don't understand. I hate it. It's too nerve-wracking for me, whatever she's going to say. And then I would say, okay, well, here's the thing. They're not going to hurt you unless you go up to them. And if you go up to them, then they will hurt you. And you do all of that with pictures in your head so that she's clear about it. And then at the same time, you work with her kind of from a training standpoint.
So my mindset on these walks is different than I think my wife's mindset is.
Probably.
Because my wife and I are very different people, and we think about things differently. To me, like, I'm very calm, like walking, and I'm like, okay, stay on the sidewalk. Everything's going to be fine. And if somebody should happen to veer off the road, there isn't going to be much I can do about it anyway.
Yeah.
But my wife is a lot more tense.
Yeah.
Like, always have to be watch for car. I have to watch. We have to turn around. We have to watch her step. And I wonder if it would be different if I took her for a walk versus my wife taking her for a walk, because I know that they pick up on whatever it is that you're feeling. If you're a catastrophist, they're gonna feel that. If you're anxious, they're gonna feel that, just like they know when you're sad or anything else, right?
Absolutely. That's just dog behavior 101.
Yeah.
They mirror your energy. So you can answer your own questions by taking her for a walk without your wife.
Yeah, because we usually go together.
Oh, okay.
But my wife, it's my wife that has her on the leash.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well,
and
at least try holding the leash yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to change a few things today.
Put a Snickers bar in her mouth every time a car comes by. Get her distracted.
I hear that's not good for Okay. We'll try some new approaches, because like what we've been doing is just like kind of walking with the leash kind of tight. So
no, too much tension. Yeah.
We're going to try some new things.
You need a better plan. There's nothing wrong with picking her up when a car comes by either, because she's so tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll try some new things. Yeah. I will report back.
Okay. Great.
So is there a difference between what people want their pets to be feeling and what the animals are actually feeling? Like,
yeah. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
So people will ask me, my dog, you need to talk to my dog. He won't stop digging in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to the dog and say, you need to stop digging in the yard, nothing will change. There's a reason the dog is digging in the yard, right? And so we can't they are individuals, right? They have their feelings, they have their thoughts, they have their reasons. And it works a lot better if people aren't all about putting our feelings on them, a dog, or what the dog should be doing all the time. There has to be some give and take. So yes, the answer is yes.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So what do you think the number one lesson is that animals have taught you about people?
About people.
Like what have animals taught you about people?
I cannot answer that question. That question isn't computing for me. What I can tell you is that I've learned a lot about people over the last 25 years, simply teaching classes, getting involved in adoptions, rescues, and running a business. I mean, all of that teaches you a lot about people. There are things that my animals have taught me about myself, however, and that's a more interesting topic. And let me give you an example. First of all, I am a person that tries to be better. I'm not, status quo isn't good for me. I'm always striving to be better. I have a dog who's a big shepherd. He just died last year, total heartbreak. And about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I connected with another animal communicator, and we were just talking about him. And one of the things that we were talking about is he took treats from my hands so hard that I couldn't treat him. I couldn't give him treats, which was a struggle in the classroom because I needed to use them as a demo. I needed to be able to hand him treats. But there was it wasn't just treats. It was when he corrected a puppy, it was too hard. He was too hard. And the animal communicator pointed out, she told him, she said, your mouth is so strong, you don't realize how strong you are. And can we work with this? But the other thing I realized in all of that, what he taught me, and there was improvement there, but what he taught me is that I tended to, as a person, be the same way. I would be level, all is good, all is good, all is good, all is good. And then I would explode and figuratively bite hard and then come back and I level, and then explode. And I realized that it was almost like showing me, because you hold everything so tight and then like he'd overcorrect a puppy or he'd take treats too hard, the bite was too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at myself, I said, I'm kind of the same way. And so I then worked on myself and got to where my reactions were much more moderated, and he stopped doing that behavior. So if you look at your animals and how they are, if they're extra barky, extra
anxious,
extra aggressive, if the animals aren't getting along, the first thing, if you want to fix it, look at yourself and say, okay, let's pretend that animal is a mirror for me. And you will find it to be the case a lot of times. And so then you just make a few alterations in yourself and you watch how it changes the dynamic with the animals.
Before you judge me, take yourself.
Yeah.
It makes it. I thought this was an interesting question. I want to know what you think. If humanity vanished tomorrow, do you think animals would miss us? Or do you think they would finally relax?
No. Oh my gosh. Well, I would relax if I was the only one here. Would they miss us? The wildlife would not.
Mm-hmm.
The domestic animals. So I'm asking Fluffy this question in my mind. And Fluffy says that we are here, the domestic animals, talk about domestic animals, our pets, the animals that are with us, dogs in particular, are here to serve and to help man. So we would probably not go on in the form that you see, because our jobs would largely be done.
Fluffy told you.
Yes, but yes, hold on. She says, we're just so wrapped up in you in a loving way. It's loving. We love our job of serving and supporting you. And it doesn't always look like that. Sometimes you see aggression or sometimes you see, but we are helping mankind evolve. And that's really largely what we're here for. So some of us, she said, would go on, the spirit of the dog would go on and to take a more, wild sort of form, like what you might imagine a coyote or a wolf or something like that.
Fluffy, I don't think we've been giving you enough credit, little doggy. So for listeners who may still be skeptical but deeply love their pets, what would you want them to understand most about the bond between humans and animals?
If you feel there's something deeper, if you feel that there is a magical quality to it, if you feel that your animals are really intelligent and maybe superior in some ways, I want to let you know that you are right? They are much more than humanity has given them credit for. And you're not crazy. You are not crazy. They have wisdom. Like, look at what Fluffy just said. They have wisdom beyond what many people can possibly imagine.
So if animals could speak openly to humanity for 5 minutes, what do you think they would say?
Oh, I cannot possibly think on their behalf. What?
Maybe that wasn't a very fair question. I mean, it's
What
pretty broad.
I don't want to speak on their behalf. What I'd rather do is connect with deeply and then come back with an answer. What I will say is that what I see, if I'm looking out into the field, domestic animals everywhere, is how much they love their people.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you connect with, they're always teaching. There's always some kind of teaching. And they're here to teach. And they love it when you get their teachings. And a lot of times people think that we are here to care for animals, like they're little babies and they need to be cared for. And the animals say unequivocally, no, we are here to take care of you. Now, taking care, we might need taking care of. We might need nursing back from abuse or something like that. But in the process of nursing us back from abuse, you're probably healing a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. You see, it's always about the animals are here, the domestic animals are here to help us and grow, to help us grow.
Well, I am out of questions for you.
Okay.
Even though I think we could probably go on for quite a ways.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me?
Well, did you hear something today that was new for you?
Actually, I think most of what I heard today was confirming.
That's it. People know. That's it. See, that is it. That's what I want more than anything. You're reconnecting through confirming, through affirming, through experience, reconnecting with the truth and the soul and the spirit and the connection that we have with all of the natural world. Mm-hmm. Really, you can, the elements, I talked with a dog one time. They wanted to know why she was so afraid of gunfire, thinking maybe she had a traumatic past. And I said, well, is thunder also? They said, yeah, it's thunder. I said, yeah. So I asked her about it and she said, oh, I hate thunder. it's just loud and it's all around me and the ground shakes. And, oh, I don't like it. And I said, so do you remember the first time? And she showed me when she was a baby puppy. She was hiding in like a closet or a woodshed or something like that. And she said, nobody was here to tell me what it was. I didn't know what it was. And I said, okay, well, let me see if I can help with that. And I tried to explain thunder and lightning and all of that. And it just came to me, I'm going to ask the spirit of the thunder to come in and help. And I did. And I thought, okay, this is weird. Even for me, I'm like, okay, well, this is weird. So the spirit of the thunder came in very benevolent. And he felt like there was a sense of, I'm sorry that it scares the animals. And he explained that the spirit of the thunder explained kind of what it was. And we came up with a plan for insulating her from the noise so it wasn't so bad for her. So I have no idea. Did you just ask me a question? I got lost in my own story.
Well, I guess I asked.
You don't remember either.
I think I got lost with the whole spirit of the thunder.
I know, isn't that wild? Oh my gosh. Anyway, if you want to solve animal problems, you've got behavior problems, you definitely, and working with a telepathic animal communicator can definitely help you. We get to the core of the problem. We come up with a solution. We get, sometimes the animal will offer a solution. Sometimes we just get buy-in for the solution. If you just want to understand your animal more, how to make them happy, or how to communicate with them, making sure what you think you know is actually true, an animal communicator can help with that also. It adds an element of magic to life.
Absolutely. And somebody asked me, I got to be a guest on a radio show recently, and I was asked if I had always been good at talking to people, or if that was something that grew. And I said, well, I didn't answer. It was one of those deals where it hit me later on, like, God, I wish I'd have said that, because that was the truth. That was the answer that I couldn't think of at the time. And the truth of the matter is that, if anything, I feel like I've gotten better at listening, because and I think that's something, like, I realize that I want this show to kind of embody, is that is we learn how to listen, whether it's to each other, and tune out our phones and all the silly shit that doesn't really matter, and listen to whatever has something to say, whether it's outdoors, or whether it's our animals, or whether it's the person that's sitting across from us. I think that's the thing that's probably helped me the most. And that's something I think I want to continue to practice in ways beyond just what we're doing right now. And it's funny because, like, a lot of times, like, I can have a conversation with somebody for an hour, and, you go on about your day. But sometimes, like, after these shows, or like, I really have to focus on listening to the other person. I'm tired at the end of it. It's not because they wore me out. It's because, like, listening skills take honing. And I think that extends so much, so far beyond just conversations with people.
One of the exercises I have people do in my classes is something called deep listening. And you can look it up online. There's actually a thing. It's actually a thing, but I have them practice deep listening. Deep listening with people. And it's a way to hone your telepathic skills. It's a way to hone your listening and your receptivity, your ability to be receptive. And deep listening is where when someone's talking, you listen to what they're saying, and you're not thinking about fixing it, solving it, responding to it. You're just receptive to what they're saying to the very end of what they say. And in my classes, I actually have people going home and talking to their spouses and practicing it with each other. And they're saying it just is, it's more peaceful. Everyone is more peaceful in the home now because they're doing it that way. But it is a way to, it's one of the practice. I have a handful of foundational skills that I have people practice in order to be able to be better listeners with their animals, right? So it's interesting. You should bring that up.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I would like to continue to practice because I found it to be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I think that's all I got for you.
Okay. Well, this has been great. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Well, that'll about do it for this episode of The People We Meet. But before we go, I just want to say thank you. Seriously, this show only exists because you keep showing up, listening, sharing, and being a part of it. And I don't take that lightly. And to my family for humoring my foolish endeavors. And if something in this episode stuck with you, pass it along. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've got a story, your story or someone else's that deserves a voice, I want to hear from you. Head over to the People We Meet podcast and reach out. You can also find the show on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Podbean. Give it a follow, stay connected, and help this thing grow. Thanks again for listening. And as always, be good to each other.